guys, thanks for joining me in the shop today. Today we're going to make this urn.
So the first thing is to joint this solid cherry piece. I had this left over from building the vanity and linen closet that you may have seen in my previous posts. Next we're just ripping it to final height. I think it was 9.75 or 9 3/4 inches. This sled for the table saw works really well for repeatable cuts. I used some, I squared it off, and then I used some makeshift stops. If the sled was longer in the back, you can see it's a little short. If it was longer, I could have used a clamp and a scrap piece of wood for a stop block. So this is the method I chose at the time. Sorry for the shaky video. I was just trying to give you a little bit better view of how this is working. I attached my phone clamp actually to the sled. So it's going to be a little shaky here for a couple of shots, but it gets better. Here I'm just kind of laying out the box with the grain direction, seeing which one I like better. The side panels won't be seen because this is being stored in a, I guess a crypt, a small crypt, I think is what you call it. So only the front will be seen. Those are some measurements for you if you want to make one yourself. Or if you have any questions on any of the measurements, feel free to comment below. Now the top piece for the urn is kind of a floating panel, and I angled it on the table saw, so I'm just cutting this to my final length. This is my spline jig and my tending jig. On the other side is a spline jig, so it's dual purpose. Has holes to clamp it. I actually had to go cut another hole. But I'm just lining up the angle. I've got it, I think, at a 10 or 12 degree angle on the table saw. Cut my first strip, let the table saw power down before you do another cut. And I would not do any of that while the table saw is running or the blade is turning. I still need a better clamping solution. I think I needed to drill a couple of different holes in a different location. But it worked fine and I was comfortable with it. One of the reasons I bought this DeWalt DWE 7491 RS table saw is that it has a dado stack. So I bought this Freud dado stack, pretty inexpensive, and it tells you if you want a certain width, you add different components, different blades to get that width. So I'm trying to get a 3/8 inch wide by a 1/4 inch deep. And you see me use this Craig marking or measuring tool. I use that thing a lot. It works really well. Here I've already oriented the boards. That's a test cut. Here I'm just doing a test fit after cutting the dado. I actually had to make the dado a little deeper to get a better fit and do a little bit of sanding on this top. So it just took a few minutes. Now the one thing I did, I used the Festool domino to put holes or tenons in this, because when you're gluing, if I would have just used glue, it wouldn't have been strong enough. And I always do a test fit, a dry fit without glue, just to make sure it all lines up. The ends, you know, I've used the Festool a few times for this method, and I still have to sand the edges. It's not a perfect fit, but I'm probably doing something wrong. If you guys are still watching, please like and subscribe. I appreciate it. It really helps the channel out. So I just glue this up overnight. I actually fill in the holes on the edges you can't see on camera, but I milled up some wood to fill those holes with plugs. I'm cutting this at 15 degrees after I get the final measurements, the final width. I'm cutting it at 15 degrees to give it a bevel on the sides and the ends. And I got this design idea. The customer actually sent it to me from Rob Cosman. This is very similar to one he built, so I used his video for inspiration per the client request. And I just had to glue up that 8/4 or 2-inch thick cherry. I had just a little bit left over from that previous project. So I didn't pay anything for materials, which is great. I'm just trying to get a slight reveal around, probably a 1/16 of an inch all the way around. One thing to remember with solid wood construction, you need to finish all sides of the project using the same finish. So I clear coated the inside of this as well. And before the top panel was installed, it was clear coated all the way around before it was installed.
Off camera, I drilled my holes and I labeled the front. So and then I used these drywall screws. Now I oversized the hole so if there's any wood movement left and right, you know, wood expands along its width, not its length. It gives it a little movement since it's a solid wood, so they're oversized holes. All right. So guys, that's what it looks like. Now on my laser, I engraved this. This is going to be glued on like that. And then this is going to be placed in a 12 by 12 crypt. Or I'm not sure of the correct term, but that's what it looks like. Appreciate you guys following along. This is my first time building one. I have made one on the lathe for my dad a few years ago, but I haven't made a box urn. And this is removable so that you can put the remains inside